Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm, and today we're gonna carry on our series. And in the last episode we have done some improvements in our system. So now, if you've been following the series, in the last episode we now are able to rotate our part. Now what we're gonna do here today is actually adding the sockets. So the sockets is gonna be used to be placing the parts and align then with more precision, so then the player doesn't have to come in here and try to figure out himself, oh, I need to put this here or something like this. So it's gonna be something that we're gonna be using to align this with precision. So there's one thing here that I just realized, that for some reason this cube has the offset, the pivot, as you can see here, is not aligned in the middle, is aligned in here, and this can cause a lot of problems when trying to align things on it. Since this is going to be our base, or our base part, or at least one of those base parts, I have found a better solution here. So if you go back to cube, of course that if you have the engine content enabled, that you should have default cube here. Let me just search for cube, and we should have this SM cube 01. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that, and as you can see, that cube has the pivot on the middle. And the next thing you need to do here is make sure our scale is set to 1, 1, and 1. Now if you press play and we're trying to align the cube here, it stays in the middle, right? Which is really cool. Now we can use a socket to do this in the game. And one thing here as well is the back wheel already has that, so we don't need to worry about that too much. And let's start with the sockets here. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna close everything. I'm gonna go, where is my base car wheel here, and I'm gonna go to my blueprints, and I am gonna right click here, and I'm gonna call sockets, right? Let's create a socket. Let's create here a blueprint, and let's call this it is gonna be actor, so it's gonna be BP base socket, which is really good. Compile and save. Let's save everything. And now what we're gonna do with our actor here is that we need to somehow something that we can interact with. And the way we can do this is really simple. We're gonna add here a static sphere, and we're gonna make sure that now we need to attach this sphere to the side of this. But let's make this socket a little bit more smaller. So let's put something like 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5. So let's make sure that we can hit this here, right? Which is really cool. So the idea is that we're going to put sockets on all sides of this cube, something like that. I'm not entirely sure where we're going to align this properly. And when the player hit that socket, it's gonna allow us to snap that position in place. Yeah, so to do this, we already have our sphere. Let's go back to collision. And for this case, we need to make sure that we go to custom. We go to custom. Make sure the collision here is collision enable. And let's set everything to enable. I think, everything's gonna be enabled. Only the only thing that is not gonna be enabled is going to be the palm. And let's see if we can actually see this with our line trace. To test this, let's just bring this cube here, and we're gonna go to our modular car components. Let's open up this, and where we have our where is it here? Where we've done our logic here. What I'm gonna do is, if hit something, I'm just gonna press print here really quickly. I'm gonna then check what actor I'm hitting with my line trace. So I'm gonna go in place mode, and in here, BP base socket. The cool thing is that the socket won't interact with the player. So what we can do that is we can make sure, I think everything gets ignored part of the camera. Let's make sure that those are working. Cool. So now the socket doesn't ignore. I mean, it does do some collision with the camera, but that's something that we don't need to worry about too much. So yeah, cool. Now we have our socket here, and this is good. Now the next thing that we want to do here is that we need to somehow attach those sockets to the cube. So let's do this. So let's get our base cube here. Let's browse to asset. Let's open up that. And in here on the viewport, we need to add those sockets in there. So let's go back to blueprints, sockets. Let's bring these sockets and let's parent, I think, inside the body. Let me check here. Where is it? So let's call this just call socket 01. Let's bring here to the side. Let's compile and play, and let's see what does it happen on the game. Alright, so we have our socket that it doesn't interact with the player, but it does interact with the camera. But that's okay. It's not a problem that is gonna cause any problems, I suppose. So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna go back to our modular system. That I'm gonna plug this back in, and here what we need to do is that first of all we need to make sure that our preview part is valid, so is valid, before we can set the actual location and position. And nice. And now let's do another thing here. So the next thing that I want to do here is that if I hit the socket, if I'm hitting a socket, I want to make sure that my part goes to that socket location, right? So let's set up here first. How do we want the part to be snapped, right? So in this case, I do want to snap the base body, but if you try to bring in this to the scene, it won't work. So it doesn't allow me to, it's not going to show anything. So what I'm going to do here, just for testing purpose, oh, just had a quick crash here. Let me just recover that. All right, I'm back. Just had a crash here. So let's go back here to the way we were before here. So we have the base socket. Let me open up here our car body here. And now we kind of need to align the part, where we want the part to be aligned. So a nice trick you can do here is you can duplicate that part for now. Let's open this part. Let's just delete that socket. So we have the base part here, right? And what we can do here is that we go to our base car body. We're just gonna drag and drop this into the scene, so we know it's here. And I am gonna drag and drop this inside the socket. Let's align to 0. Everything's 0, which is great. And now, as you can see, our socket's inside that. So what I want to do here is I want to align this cube, let's say, almost perfectly. So the way we can do that is we're gonna do something like we're gonna disable this snapping, so it will allow us to kind of do some kind of matching almost perfectly. So you see that is saying at the moment is like -47, so you can do something like -48 just to have raw values. Let's just change here my camera, because my camera is too strong. Just want to be more precise. And you see that we have this clipping effect. Not a big fan of that. Oh, let me just put 46 again. Yeah, I think that looks good. Yeah, -46 looks awesome. And now we can delete that part inside. We know that our socket's in there. And the cool thing about this, right, is that because everything gets aligned to a certain part, what we can do here is that if we drop, for example, our wheel inside that socket, and of course we change the transform to 0, we are going to be able to see the right place. Now there's just one thing here that we need to make sure is that we align the front of our wheel. So let's go back here to our, let's edit our wheel here. For now I'm just going to add here an arrow, sorry, it's going to add an arrow. So I just want to make sure where is my wheel facing. And now there we go. So the wheel here is facing to that place. So let's just change the socket here to something like that, -90, right? And I'm very happy with it. I think that looks good. In the future, we could have some kind of adjustment for the wheel. So if it's a wheel, we could do something like, okay, we place a little bit lower, but we can do that when the time comes. So look, for now, I'm very happy with it. So we have the socket set up in there. So let's do this -90 for now. Right, compile and save. One thing here that we also need to do, let me just remove the arrow here, is that we also need to make sure where is the front of this cube. So arrow, let's add an arrow there. So the front of this cube is in the other way. So what we can do here is, let me just put this here, let's put 0, everything 0. So we know the cube is facing that way. So what we can do here, I'm just gonna enable the grip again. I'm gonna bring this cube here, gonna bring it there, and in the rotation, we're gonna just attach that. Let's put arrow here again, just to help us guide where is the right location here. Let me just add the wheel back here. And the thing is, like, you need to do this only once. Once you set up everything, everything should work. But at the moment, you just need to make sure that your socket is set up in the right place. 0, and there we go. So as you can see here, our wheel now is aligned to the right place. Yeah, so they are both aligned to the right place. And I think that's pretty much everything that we need to do. Compile and save. So we got our socket, we got our arrow, and yeah, nice. Now if I press play, we're not going to be able to see anything, just the socket in there. Let's go back here to our modular system, and now let me just align that. Let's make sure it's a little bit cleaner. So if the actor that I am hitting is a socket, I want to make sure that my preview part gets aligned to the actor. Really simple to do. So let's do this equals that. And are this actor equals to a base socket class? And of course, if this is valid, we're going to do a branch. That if is not valid, so it's not Boolean, we're just going to move the part around. But if this is valid, we're going to set the actor location to that location, to the actor location that we get here. So we're going to do something like that. Get actor location, plug it in here, compile and save. Oh yeah, sorry. This needs to, basically, we need the preview part to be set in there. Really cool. Compile and save. Let's see if our crazy logic here will work. So if you come back in that, so now that didn't work. Let's check why is that not working properly. So let's check what it's doing here. So let's do, actually, let's make sure that the heat actor, let me just do a printing here. I just want to check what is that coming up here. So if I press play, come back to the body, it's because it's somehow right. So what we're gonna do here is that we need to fix that bug here, right? File and save. And before we can check if this is working, there's just one issue here that we need to fix. That for some reason our socket is casting some kind of interference with our handling system here. So let's do one thing here. Let's go to the parent class. And actually, better. What we're going to do, we're going to go back here to the car body. Remember that we have these events here called in preview mode. All we're going to do here is that we're going to get the socket. And well, there's better ways you can do that, but for now we're going to get the class. Actually, we're going to get actor. And for now, we're going to cast to sockets. In a minute, we're going to create an interface for this. But what I'm going to do here is that I am going to get now, let me just get my socket. How do they call that? I just call sphere. This is great. So I'm going to come in here. I'm just going to get my sphere. And I am going to do that where I ignore this stuff here. So we're going to paste this in, paste it in here. I'm going to plug this in, and let's check if that socket will interfere with our asset here. So it's not interfering, which is great. Now, when you hit that, it's not necessarily doing what we want. So let's check here why it's not doing what we want. Let's go back to our modular here and let's just print our actor. Let's see if he's hitting that actor here. Body. So the base socket's getting hit, which is good. So he's hitting that, definitely. And let's just make sure that we print. Let's see if he hits that hello that. So he's not doing that. For some reason. Oh yeah, sorry. There's one thing here that I forgot. I'm doing this wrong way. We need to get so get class, right? And we need to make sure that the class, let's just delete this. The class here equals the base socket class. And if that's true, then only then we want to set this up. Because the other way we're basically checking if when you do that, you want to check if the actor is equals a certain actor. And we are not really doing this. We want to make sure the class match that. So right now we should still not. Oh yeah, that's because it's now setting up in the wrong position. Now this is more of a socket issue. So what we can do here, let's go back to our part. And right now, I think I know the reason why is that because we need to make sure that the part here rotates in relation to our part here. So what we're gonna do, let's make sure that we get our socket, our blueprints, car parts. Let's just duplicate this for now, just for testing purpose. We're gonna delete the other socket here. Compile and save. I'm just gonna, for now, take that here. And the reason why I duplicate this is just because I can come in here now, open up our car body, and attach this here. Let's see how this is gonna look like. So now we got the base car body is attached to the socket, so 0, 0, 0. And we can see that we are setting the rotation. So what we need to do here realistically is that we need to set the actor location inside the socket. So let's just fix here this issue that we got. Do something like that. Nice. So we got everything in line. So we're going to compile and save. Let me just delete this part. Actually, I'll leave it for now. And let's figure out what we got to do here. So what we need to do here is that we need to set actor relative location. And what we need to get here is that we need to get, instead of get actor location, we need to get sphere. Do we have the sphere that? We need to cast this. I see. All right, let's do this. So what we're gonna do here is that we're gonna cast to a socket. Let's put it in here. And now we need to get sphere. The sphere, and from the sphere here, if the cast successfully, we're gonna get location, and I think we need to get relative location. And let's try. Let's see if that works. So we're gonna do that. We may need to play a little bit around with that. So right now it doesn't necessarily allows us. It's setting up the wrong place. It's definitely locking place for sure, but is setting up to the wrong location. So maybe if we set actor location, and this is more try and error. Let's just this here. Get actor get location, word location. And let's see if that's gonna work now. Press play. It's quite not aligning right. Let's check why it's not aligning properly. Hi guys, and welcome back here. So I just found a couple of bugs here that I didn't realize. Just is some try and error, and basically the first bug here that I did is that I forgot to add a knot. So what I was doing here, it was doing this weird behavior where you add your socket there, so it only moves in there. So what we need to do here is that when we get in the class, if the class equals the socket, we want to make sure that we add not boolean here. What does that mean is basically that if it's not this class, we're just gonna be able to move the actor around. And then what I did here is that right now I am casting to the socket. I'm getting the sphere location, because remember, the sphere location is where we based our game, our logic in that. And we are setting the preview part to the actor, to the word location of that sphere. So if you're coming here, you press body. So you see, we have now our parts alignment kind of aligned properly. There's just one thing here that I want to do it before we finish the lesson here, which is that on the car body, when we place this, we need to make sure that we copy our sphere here, right? And we set this stuff to visibility to block. So let's set to block, 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 compile and save. Oh yeah, so now it's gonna complain that we need the sphere here. Let's set it like that, compile and save. Now if you press play, body, now we have the sphere there, we have the sphere here, and as you can see, we can kind of build our car, like, and then we can put a wheel there somehow. You see, the wheel goes in the right place, and the idea is that you're gonna build your car in blocks, and I think you can even go. Let's check if you can do something like that. Like you can do things like, so because now we can rotate, we can kind of do like a very junky cube here, but it will kind of work because they all have the same location. But right now it doesn't work because we don't have a socket that we can place stuff on. But you guys can see here how this is gonna work. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I see you guys in the next lesson. Just to give you a quick heads up, in the next lesson we're gonna be cleaning up some of this logic because we're starting to reuse too many things here. So I see you guys in the next lesson.